You're listening to Better at English, episode 36. Hi, English learners. Lori here, your teacher from betteratenglish.com. In this episode of Real English Conversations, you'll hear me talking to Kyla, a fellow musician. We met up to talk about a book that we both really liked. It's called Daily Rituals and was written by Mason Currey. But as it turned out, Kyla and I had a lot more to talk about than the book. In fact, we didn't even start talking about the book until several minutes into the conversation. So you'll have to wait until part 2 for that. In this first part, you'll hear us breaking the ice by talking about guitars and practicing and other things we have in common. This was a normal thing to do because it was the first time we ever spoke to each other. You'll be hearing a lot of informal American English, including tons of phrasal verbs. I think the best way to really learn phrasal verbs is in context, so I've highlighted most of them for you in the transcript along with the other vocabulary. As always, you can find the full transcript, including a bonus vocabulary lesson, at betteratenglish.com/transcripts. Okay, let's get this conversation started.
Okay, great. It was really, really cool that you stepped up to the plate and got in touch about talking about this book.
Good. Yeah, well, it's a book that I've read. I own a copy, and coming up with rituals. I'm always looking for better ways to work, better ways to be creative. So it's when I saw your post, I was like, oh, I love that book.
Oh, yeah, great. Yeah, at that point, I don't even think I'd read more than like a quarter of it. And I was like, oh, this is such a cool book. I really want to talk to somebody about it.
Excellent.
So, yeah, but before we get into that, tell me a little bit more about what you're doing with guitar.
Well, I was sort of trained as a classical guitarist as a kid. And moved on, started playing electric in a folk rock band in like 15 years ago. And just sort of, I'd always been listening to metal, so I think it was sort of natural that I got into playing metal. Now I play in a really, really proggy sort of death metal band called Molt, and we, after much strife, finally released an album a couple of years ago. But yeah, I mean, I'm always striving to sort of streamline how I practice, because I've always got, I just quit a job about a month ago to sort of start to, now I'm teaching myself Java and Python. And I'm actually working on writing an app to generate guitar practice exercises. But yeah, so I'm always, looking for ways to work, looking for ways to fit my practice time in, the continual quest for speed, which I do have to thank you for your little, your post about using a 1-minute timer.
Oh, yeah.
I do that every day. That's really become a part of my practice regimen.
Oh, super. I'm glad that was useful.
Yeah, that was extraordinarily useful. So
yeah, it's one of the things about playing guitar, if you're trying to achieve higher than average level of technical mastery, is that you find that unless you're like one of these freaky people who seem to be just super, super gifted, it takes an inordinate amount of practice.
Yeah, it does. And focused practice.
Yeah, not just kind of going over the scales or the things that you like to do that are easy for you. You have to sort of get into the edges and push yourself into the areas where you're not comfortable and where you start feeling like you suck.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is not like a happy place to be spending a lot of time, really, but that's kind of what you have to do, I think.
It really is. You sort of have to accept, like, okay, I'm going to suck at this for a while. Like, I'm just going to have to get used to that, because eventually I will get better at it.
Exactly.
I think it is, you really need to be able to to accept that. And I think like I've never I have quite a few friends who play lots of different instruments, and I've just never like I've sort of never really been interested in learning other instruments. And someone pointed out once that like I'd been playing guitar for so long that I probably just couldn't handle like not being able to play something.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like pick up a new instrument and you're at the beginning and they're like, you just can't handle that anymore.
Yeah, going back to that feeling of like totally sucking and being a
Yeah,
beginner and not
yeah,
knowing how long it's going to take you before you start seeing some results. And
yeah, exactly. Then it's like, well, am I going to devote time to this or am I going to devote time to playing the guitar even better? I think I'll
yeah,
stick with guitar.
that's one of the most difficult things that I run into now. And really one of the main reasons that I'm not playing guitar at the moment is that I'm exposed to so many things now that I want to be able to do, like creative things and fun and interesting things. But they're all things that you don't get good at overnight.
Yeah,
You know, it's all things that are incredibly complex, that take a lot of time and effort until you're even just kind of halfway decent. And I find that as I get older, it's becoming more and more important to really pick and choose where I'm going
yeah,
to focus my time and energy,
yeah,
because it's just not, it's not like I have limited hours a day to devote to drawing and learning to code and taking photos and training my dog and like doing all these different things I want to do, plus work and have
yeah,
relationships and all the things. So yeah, it's just
yeah,
an interesting thought, I think.
yeah,
But yeah, to circle back a little bit to what you said in the beginning about you're always looking for like routines, things to streamline your practicing, and um, I I think that's one of the things that kind of drew me to the book myself. And I guess I should probably mention the book we're talking about is Daily Rituals by Mason Currey. I think that was
yes,
his name.
that would be helpful, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So, yeah.
All right, that's all for this first part. I hope you enjoyed it. In the next part of the conversation, we actually start talking about the book, Daily Rituals by Mason Currey. It's a fascinating little book that describes the daily habits and routines of 161 creative people, everyone from Beethoven to Hemingway to Stephen King. Some of the routines make a lot of sense, and others are completely crazy. As always, you can find the transcript and vocabulary lesson for this conversation at betteratenglish.com/transcripts. Until next time, keep on practicing your English. In fact, you can practice right now by leaving me a voice message or writing something on the Better at English Facebook page. You can find all the ways to get in touch at betteratenglish.com/contact. Bye for now.